Hello, and welcome to Soothing Pod's Sleep Stories. My name is Chris, and tonight I will be your guide on a beautiful, peaceful journey to a good night's sleep. Tonight's story is about a little girl who goes on an incredible journey. But before I begin our story for the night, let us take a few moments to prepare ourselves for a restful night and relax. Close your eyes. Feel the weight on your eyelids, the cozy warmth of the blanket over you. Is there any tension in your body? Are you clenching your fists or tensing your neck? Allow your body to let go. Simply try to relax and let yourself settle into the mattress underneath you. Feel how soft and warm the bed is. Notice how it welcomes you to let go of the pressures of the day and fully relax. Focus on the noise around you. Maybe it's silence, or the steady drone of passing cars. Perhaps it's even rain dancing over your roof. Allow the rhythm of whatever noise is around you to guide you closer and closer to sleep with every beat. Through your nose, take a long, deep breath. Can you feel the warmth coursing through your body as the breath fills your lungs? Like a wave, can you feel the comfort wash over you? First over your fingers, then your legs, all the way down to your toes, until your whole body is glowing with comfort and warmth. Exhale through your mouth. As you exhale, feel all the stress of the day leave your body. Exhale any negativity, any worries, any work. It has no home within you. Can you feel how time around you has slowed? How you have gained control of this glorious moment in your day? Find comfort and peace in this. Now that you've settled into bed with the right mindset, let us begin our story. Tonight's story, Alice's Adventures in Wonderland, begins in a lush garden far, far away. Alice, a bright girl only 7 years of age, strolled through a garden party. The garden was picturesque, dotted with rows and rows of bright red roses. All around her, adults clinked teacups as they spoke in hushed tones over the hot, fragrant steam. Though the garden was lovely, Alice didn't find the company particularly engaging. In fact, Alice was rather bored. Everything around her was prim and proper. Adults in fancy clothes, snacks arranged in perfect little shapes, people afraid to laugh too much, to smile too brightly. Alice decided she had to escape this. She wanted fun, adventure, magic. She didn't want to be proper and dull. She found herself sneaking out of the garden, past the sweet aroma of the roses and lilies, past the bubbling stream and extravagant fountains. In just moments, she was at the edge of a forest. Sunlight filtered through the lofty pines. The dense woody aroma of birch and cedar trees hung in the air and danced in her nose, welcoming her to step further and further into the woods. Just then, Alice noticed a flash of white scuttle across the forest floor. Unsettled leaves jumped up into the breeze, floating around the low ferns and blackberry bushes. Curious, Alice tiptoed towards the creature. Before her, a white rabbit tapped its foot impatiently as he stared at a stopwatch. He wore a tiny, rabbit-sized waistcoat and a frustrated expression. His nose wrinkled and twitched as he glanced at the time on the stopwatch. Oh dear, I shall be too late," he cried. Without another word, he bounded further into the forest. Alice followed after him. She waded through the sea of flowers and plants until suddenly she was falling. Down, down, down she fell. Glowing crystals and creeping vines flashed all around her as she tumbled through the air. Mushrooms growing on the rabbit hole's walls pulsed with a bioluminescent glow. On the way down, she couldn't help but think, this is much deeper than any rabbit hole I've ever seen. With nothing but a gentle thump, Alice landed in a bed of flowers. She rose to her feet, amazed that she had landed so softly. Completely amazed that she had landed in a room with vibrant walls and checkerboard floors. Alice couldn't help but feel she had found someplace much more exciting than the party she had abandoned. The white rabbit scurried down a long hallway. Alice dusted off her dress and rushed after him, only to discover he had slipped through a small door with a window. On the other side of the door, a gorgeous garden sparkled and swayed in the sunlight. It was otherworldly, practically glowing with life. Bright petals danced in the cool breeze. Mystic-looking flowers Alice had never seen in her life reached further and further towards the sunlight. Alice saw the white rabbit disappear further and further into the garden. She wanted to follow him. She wanted to explore the other world. But the door was locked, and she was certain she wouldn't be able to fit through. At the end of the hallway, a key on the table glistened under the bright light. On one side, there was a bottle with a tag attached to it. On the other sat a slice of cake. Alice turned over the tag, which read, "Drink me." The blue liquid inside the bottle bubbled with a mysterious energy. She then flipped over the tag on the cake, which read, "Eat me." With a shrug, Alice drank the liquid. For once, she wanted to see what following orders would do. The liquid was silky smooth on her tongue. A warm feeling rushed over her body, a feeling that almost made her want to drift off to sleep. Suddenly, the room around her seemed to grow. Alice looked around in amazement as the realization washed over her. She was shrinking, and she was shrinking fast. She grew smaller, smaller, and smaller still. The world around her, the table, the doorways, everything was massive, like something out of a strange dream. That door, that was once too tiny for her, was precisely her height now. She raced over to it, looking into the garden through the window. The white rabbit was long gone, but the garden itself looked even more gorgeous than it had before. It was practically a picture of tranquility. How she longed to lay on that soft grass, to stare up at the clouds and breathe in the fresh floral air. She tried the handle to the door. Only then did she realize what she had done. The key, the only way into the beautiful garden, was sitting above her head on the table. Would she even be able to carry it? Certainly there was no way she could reach up there. She glanced at the cake in her hand. Eat me, she thought. Well, maybe that's exactly what will get me out of this mess. Alice took a deep breath and allowed her body to relax. She took a huge bite out of the center of the lush, fluffy cake. The sweet taste of chocolate flooded her mouth and engulfed her senses. In an instant, her body began to grow. She shot past the tiny door, past the table. She felt a sense of pride and excitement. She had finally figured this out. Only she hadn't figured it out. She shot past the normal-sized door, past the chandelier, until her head was pressed against the ceiling. She could feel the tears welling in her eyes. How had she failed this horribly? How was she ever going to return home? Even worse, how was she going to see the gorgeous garden? At the thought, tears spilled from Alice's eyes. She just couldn't stop them. The large tears poured out of her eyes like a faucet, filling the floor below her. Before she knew it, the water was at her knees. Alice wiped off her face, feeling much better after her cry. She waded through the sea she had created from her own tears until she felt her knees bump against the table. She reached through the tears, hoping to find something that would help her. Her fingers brushed against an object. Again, Alice found herself shrinking. Down, down, down she shrunk, until she became her original size. For a brief moment, everything was fine. Until she realized how deep the water underneath her was. She waded in the warm water, desperate for a place to stop. In the distance, a mouse floated over the waves. His little pink ears twitched as he rocked back and forth over the waves. Alice called out to him, trying to catch his attention, but he began to swim in the other direction. Soon, there were dozens of animals all around her. Chipmunks and squirrels shook their tails under the weight of the water. Dogs paddled, trying to find a place to rest. Everyone found themselves floating through the waves, faster and faster as the tears spilled out of the doorway. Alice found herself whizzing by things she had never seen in her life. Mountains made of glowing rock, trees dripping in sparkling ice, plants coated in golden dew and ethereal flowers. It was hard not to marvel at the world around her, even as she found herself barreling downstream in a river she had somehow managed to create. Ahead of her, the animals began to swim to shore. Alice followed them and finally pulled herself onto the soft grass. She laid on her back for a long moment, staring at the beautiful clouds as they passed her by. The sky was an odd blue, unlike anything she had ever seen before. She sat up to see the white rabbit yet again bounding through the forest behind her. Alice, dripping wet, pulled herself to her feet and rushed after him. oh dear, I shall be too late," his cry echoed through the forest. Alice rushed past trees that seemed to dance and sing as she chased after him. What a magical place, she thought. Where on earth could he possibly be going? She found her answer when she stumbled out of the edge of the forest into a stunning courtyard. A massive European castle loomed on the horizon. Every brick seemed to sparkle in the sunlight. Every window seemed to have more beautiful stained glass than the last. She stood, mouth agape, amazed by the stunning building before her. In front of her, 3 playing cards, even taller than her, stood with buckets of paint. They drew their brushes over white roses, dyeing them a scarlet red. Alice watched for a long moment as they turned the roses from white to red, white to red, white to red. Suddenly, the 3 cards dropped to the ground on their stomachs. They appeared to be cowering. Alice reached out to comfort them, but quickly a shadow fell over her. Before her, a card stood proudly. The Queen of Hearts stood at attention, a scowl and bad energy emanating from her very being. "Who are they lying on the ground there?" the Queen of Hearts asked distastefully, motioning to the cards kneeling at her feet. "Why, I don't know," Alice replied. A deck of cards hovered around the Queen. All of them seemed scared, ready to jump at the drop of a pin. The Queen glared at Alice. She called over her shoulder, "Off with her head!" Panic washed over Alice as cards began to surround her. Were they going to kill her? But what had she done? Why was the Queen so mad? "Darling, she is but a child." Behind the Queen, a voice piped up. The King approached, a kind expression on his face. "You don't want to harm her." The Queen rolled her eyes. "You must come join us in a croquet match then." Alice stepped forward uncertainly. One of the servants handed her a flamingo. At her feet, hedgehogs curled into balls. "What is this?" Alice asked, motioning to the flamingo. Merely hearing her voice seemed to irritate the Queen, who replied, "It's croquet." The game began. Alice struggled with the flamingo croquet mallet. Each and every time she tried to hit the hedgehog ball, the flamingo would look up at her with expressive eyes. Alice tried to join in, but the game seemed entirely fruitless. The Queen continued to hit hedgehogs through the croquet hoops as they shook in fear, afraid of her wrath. Alice had to say something. This game was impossible and cruel. How could someone think such a thing could be fun? Just as she opened her mouth, the white rabbit bounded over to them. "Oh, tea, my Queen?" the white rabbit asked. The Queen waved her hand, sending him off. He had to hurry so he could get here, Alice realized, trying yet again to swing her flamingo mallet, but missing terribly. The white rabbit hopped over yet again and motioned to his pocket watch. "The trial, my Queen, the trial for your tarts." The cruel Queen dropped her flamingo mallet, and the flamingo quickly scampered off to freedom. All the cards and the Queen herself began to file into the castle. Curious about the trial, Alice hurried after them. The stone walls of the castle became more and more impressive with every step she took. Finally, she entered a large room organized like a courthouse. On the stand, the Knave of Hearts shook in fear. Queen glared at him from her comfortable throne. Alice nestled into a seat in the courtroom, amazed at the congregation of people and animals around her. The White Rabbit hopped onto the stand. In a lyrical voice, he read the charges. The Queen of Hearts, she made some tarts, all on a summer's day. The Knave of Hearts, he stole those tarts and took them quite away. The trial began in full swing. The cook stepped forward, intending to give his evidence, but instead he rambled on about the ingredients within the tart. Concern and fear rushed over Alice as the Queen called out, "Sentence first, verdict afterwards." In that very instant, Alice felt herself begin to grow. The animals in her row looked to her in confusion. The court, bickering, marvelled at Alice as she grew taller and larger, until she was practically touching the vaulted ceiling. Beside her, a mouse piped up, "It's not fair for you to grow and take the air from the rest of us." The cards agreed, telling her she was distracting from the sentencing. At the sight of the Knave of Hearts quivering, Alice couldn't help herself. "You're just a deck of cards," she yelled. The day had been long, far too long. The adventure was magical and draining, all at once. "Off with her head!" the Queen hollered. In a mere instant, the deck of cards was shooting towards her, covering her. Alice closed her eyes, ready for the attack. But suddenly, Alice felt a gentle, warm hand on her face. She opened her eyes to see her sister Margaret standing above her, surrounded in a gorgeous halo of orange and pink sunlight. "You've slept through the party," Margaret chimed, "and you've got leaves all over your face." Alice sat herself up, bewildered. She laid at the edge of the forest. Around her, crickets chirped as the sun began to drift down over the horizon. Alice rose to her feet. Had it all been a dream? She glanced back into the forest, expecting to see the familiar face of the White Rabbit, but she was met with nothing but the sounds of the forest, preparing for sleep. Alice nodded and followed her sister back to reality. In her heart, she felt the warmth of a thrilling journey and comfort in the realization that we carry adventure with us everywhere we go. I hope you found some comfort in this story as you drift off to your own dreamland. Thank you for allowing me to guide you to a restful, relaxing sleep. Good night, and sweet dreams.